Through our work, GeoLark Partners aims to equip businesses with tools and insights to support long-term, sustainable progress. Thank you for joining us on the GeoLark Partners podcast, where we delve into technology trends, industry insights, and approaches to digital transformation, where innovation and ingenuity meet investment. Here's your host, founder and CEO, Emery Geosits.
Hi, and welcome to the GeoLark podcast, where innovation and ingenuity meet investment. I'm really excited today because with me are two of the more innovative gentlemen I've met, and their technology is so advanced that it's hard for one to pigeonhole it into any category. So I've asked them to join me today, talk a little bit about their product, talk about them, and talk about how this product is going to play into the future when it comes to cybersecurity. So please join me in welcoming Mircea and Alex. I won't botch their last names. That's as good as I'm going to get. I'll ask them to introduce themselves. Hi, guys. How are you?
Emery.
Thanks for joining me. Mircea, why don't you start with an introduction of who you are and how we got here?
Thank you, Emery. So, my name is Mircea. I started my relationship with the organization 10 years ago when I was actually a collaborator of the company. Throughout the time, I was more and more appealed by the field of play of the organization itself, and then also of the very interesting projects they slowly started to approach. And then once they really made the shift towards cybersecurity, specifically for the energy sector, I really felt it's really the place where I can be and I can also contribute to the organization's success. Hence, in the last year, I've been joining the organization that Alex definitely can provide a lot more background on.
Great. Thank you. Alex, you take it from here.
First of all, thank you so much for having us. In a nutshell about myself, I've been doing the IT network and cyber part in energy projects for the past 15 years. We focused heavily on renewables, electrical substations, energy dispatch centers, so went through the entire project life cycle from designing the systems down to configuration, maintenance of these infrastructures. With a focus on the cybersecurity part, we've conducted, personally, I've conducted cybersecurity assessments for transmission system operators, looking at how to build these cybersecurity programs that are sustainable for the business. I mean, you have to keep in mind the whole ecosystem, the financial constraints, the resource constraints that you have in the OT space, and build programs across all three verticals, from governance to management to operational, what technologies best fit these needs. Also, I've seen live fire when state-sponsored actors went after critical national infrastructure in a NATO country, and the efforts that are involved in recovering these systems, bringing them up online, managing the chaos that is spread within society when critical infrastructure is under attack, and kind of putting all that experience together. Have been developing SentryOT in the past 3 years now, but I'll just stop there.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because one of the things you mentioned that brings to mind, especially for our listeners that are here in the U.S., is the Colonial Pipeline. You know, what occurred there and what it effectively shut down in the U.S. could have been much worse. It was bad, and it could have been much worse. So that leads us into kind of what you guys are doing. Can you describe, obviously we talked a little bit about in your introduction, the challenges of OT environments around automation and power and those kind of things. Can you give me an idea of that versus what the traditional IT environment looks like and what you're seeing now when it comes to OT challenges?
Sure. It's great that you brought and you mentioned colonial pipelines because it was one of the situations that we always had in mind when developing SentryOT. The major challenge you have in the OT space is that it brings together two fields of engineering that are quite complex and unique in their own ways. In the sense that you have your IT, your typical digital security that is more present nowadays in the OT space as we're digitalizing these infrastructure to make them more resilient, more efficient, more easy to monitor and supervise. But it intersects with a different branch of engineering, which is process engineering, automation engineering. It's really funny that they have two very different views on the same notion of security. One is focused on the digital side, on the binary side itself, on the confidentiality, the typical triad of confidentiality, integrity, and availability that flips when you go into the operational side, where availability is more important. And for them, security is physical security, is the safety of the mechanical devices involved in running that process. So the biggest challenge is when you have an incident similar to what happened in Colonial, you need to bring together two different specialities, make them communicate in an efficient way under a crisis situation to clearly understand what is the impact, how far did it spread, is it safe to bring system online, and if not, how long is it going to take until we have productivity up and running? And this is exactly what the key objective of SentryOT is, to reduce the incident resolution time to its minimum. From the moment we detect something going on the network, and that is kind of the key feature for us, that we collect all the security telemetry available, and we take that security telemetry, we map the operational process on top of it to understand the context of the incident, so that from the moment you have an incident, you've detected it, you understand how far it spread, what the impact is, what should I do to further? Do I contain it? Is it acceptable? Can I bring system online? What do I need to do to restore, to reduce that incident resolution?
Right, right. And what technologies or kind of strategies do you use in the course of that, your ability to recognize those?
It's a combination of multiple technologies, and not only ours, but we also rely on other security tools that are present on the network. Our philosophy is that you need to have that full visibility. So we have agents deployed on workstations and servers to take that telemetry from the operating system or from the control application itself. We take logs from network devices, from industrial devices, whatever is generating some telemetry on syslog. We do deep packet inspection and we analyze the entire network traffic to understand the communication that is going on, look for any network signature specific of malicious intent, and do that deep packet inspection. And also using industrial protocols, talking the language of those industrial devices, we query them for further information that helps us build the picture of full security telemetry. But if there's an IDS already present on the network that knows industrial protocols, we can take telemetry also from that equipment or from those vendors if it's an endpoint detection and response solution. We take the logs from that platform too to ensure that our client has a uniform view on all the security elements that are happening.
Gotcha, gotcha. What's interesting is what you just said also kind of plays into another aspect of this, which is so many of these legacy environments were built long before their concerns were security, right? And their equipment's old, and in a lot of cases, even their mechanisms that they use today for security are old. So how do you mitigate that? How do you work around legacy systems that maybe not with security in mind?
That's an excellent question, actually. And it's one of the challenges that we have initially met during our, let's say, early days of cybersecurity expertise development, which was quite a few years ago. Um, as the first step of SentryOT deployment, we are also performing a security audit, providing recommendations regarding potential architecture optimizations that we are able to implement throughout our partnership with 3 of the top 5 global network security suppliers. Moreover, our unique position and DNA actually coming from a power automation company, our partnerships and expertise and certifications with all the major power automation suppliers enable us to even redesign and upgrade the whole process control automation. If the above optimizations are not an option for our customers, our tailored mapping of the plant's particular operational process really enables detection if any unusual behavior appears and provides early alerts to take actions as soon as possible. So altogether, either you are open to upgrade your equipment, or you really want to keep it as a status quo as it is, we have solutions for both.
Yeah, I think what you're going to end up doing is highlighting for them that they do need to upgrade, right? And the reality of that in order to be secure. I think, I often say that fear is a great motivator, right? For people to upgrade their systems and kind of make it to where the standards are today. And I think going through the process that you go through with end user customers, that's going to make them want to upgrade to be ready. And then the other thing I think about is, you've got a convergence, and a lot of people kind of confuse OT and IT and those differences. And so when you're talking about that convergence, describe to me a little bit about the process around that, if you don't mind.
So, well, this convergence it's a blessing and a curse. So the reason why we're converging system was one financial reasoning of cheaper off-the-shelf devices or expertise from the IT field that we brought into the OT space to reduce costs and do stuff a bit more efficient. Also, the need to manage and monetize these systems better. We extracted information about what is being produced at what pace in order to push it towards the ERP system to do the overall monitoring of it. Now, this is where the convergence happens. It does bring the opportunity of financial optimization, but the challenge being that it brings in new technology that we're not familiar with in the OT space. It brings in more risks because, as you know, IT tech is layered and has been stacked one on top of the other to make it more easy to operate, faster to deploy. But at the end, no one came back to close the circles on security vulnerabilities and issues that we have across multiple layers. And we brought that into the OT space, unfortunately, with the challenge for OT process operators that they now have to understand an entire technology that wasn't designed specifically for their needs. As you're familiar, in the OT space, most of these devices, they were designed, it took years to design efficient PLCs, protection relays, RTUs to make sure that they operate for 30 years. So simple but efficient designs. Whereas from the IT space, we bring complex, efficient in a different way, but not tailored for the needs and safety requirements of the OT space.
Right, right. More reality driven, if you will. Every single interview I do, I'm required, I feel like, to say these 2 letters, and that's AI, right? It whether it's applicable or not, you have to mention what's going on with AI. So if I look at the AI, the machine learning aspect of this, and how that helps with cyber resilience, can you give me some color into that, just so my audience understands that a little bit more? Because we're obligated to say AI. So now, what does it mean in this regard?
I think ties in really nicely with what we mentioned previously, because now you have a lot of challenges, and somehow you need to upscale people to handle this new ecosystem. We have some very we looked into Gen AI, ML, all the buzzwords and fancy technologies, and looked at how they can be practical and efficient within our space. And what we came up with is that one, when I'm collecting all this data that I've been mentioning, right? And I need to query, go through it. And usually you have very complex query syntaxes that are used with these data lakes or SIM solutions or whatnot. First key application for us within the platform is to use natural language that gets converted into those complex queries. It extracts the information and displays it to you back in an easy to understand way based on a quantitative interpretation of that data for you. That is one direction. The other is in generating reports faster, because reports at the end of the day are a series of prompts. I want to have this information, this. And that gets converted and data is extracted. I would say we're also exploring a lot on how it can be used to quicker customize the platform on the industrial process itself. Because another place where AI comes really nicely into play is that we have a lot of systems that in general they function pretty much the same way. A hydropower plant, an oil refinery, solar panel, more or less, they're similar in philosophy. But you have different devices with different configuration, different addresses, those fine-tuning parts that are relevant in doing proper security monitoring, however, are a hustle for the engineer deploying the security platform to customize and tailor. So with AI, we can say, in general, these processes look like this. If you see this kind of communication, it's fine. You can more quickly create a baseline of what is normal behavior in that infrastructure. But we strongly recommend for an automation engineer to have a second look on top of that. Because AI systems might get stuff wrong. That's why we need to check them. And never forget that they are here to augment our abilities and processes and help us resolve these challenges more efficiently.
Right, right. More so making it easier than solving the overall problem, which is, good for the engineers that maybe are not used to this platform and all that. Speaking, specifically about the platform, every government, every entity around the world is going to have compliance around energy, around the key platform for this, or the key industry for this. How do you guys manage that? How do you manage hitting all these global expectations when it comes to compliance and industry standards? What's your process to ensure that you're hitting all of those globally?
I'd have to say that we take a practical approach to it. Most of we can't solve through our platform architectural requirements. That is a different side. We're looking at the monitoring requirements and compliance from the sense of understanding your infrastructure, detecting an incident quickly, making sure you report it in due time. So we're looking at that side of OT cybersecurity compliance. And there we took what I believe is the sane approach of doing it right from the get-go. If you have all the data that your infrastructure is generating, and you understand your operational process, and you visualize it easy to understand by all parties, this aligns with all the frameworks and requirements.
You're there, right? Right. So when you, just to expound on that for just a second, from a responsibility standpoint, am I right to say that most of it will fall on your end user who's in that country, who's in that location, that they're hitting the right compliances first, and then what you're going to bring on top of that from a security perspective should check those boxes regardless? Is that a fair way to frame it?
I would say that we help our clients in achieving that compliance in the sense that if our platform is designed to set the foundation for that cyber program and to enable for the existence of that energy cybersecurity operations center within the organization. So through the way that we do the deployment of the platform, the fact that we do an assessment, we identify security data sources, we suggest changes that should be made to harden that infrastructure, and then doing the monitoring itself, that process is a partnership with our client through which we walk them through the cybersecurity hygiene and minimum requirements that you would have in any compliance or regulatory framework.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So much of our industry is reliant on global supply chain. I mean, we saw slowdowns in the simple being able to procure product down to, really low level supply chain issues that caused, a series of other issues. How does supply chain vulnerabilities play into your guys' solution?
That's a very good point, actually, and it's one that we address explicitly. As you mentioned, most of the asset owners rely on third-party vendors, contractors to maintain or, update, improve their OT ecosystem. Let's take, for example, the contractor use case. So our approach here is that we provide our customers with the ability to monitor and audit every single step the contractor makes from the IT and OT infrastructure, starting from where he connected to the network, when he logged in, potential remote connection, raw data that was exchanged on the network, actions in the SCADA applications, changes generally in the OT asset configuration, and any operational actions that were resulted um, from this intervention with timestamps. So we can even, interface with the work permit or remote access application and alert if the behavior is really outside of the scope that was agreed. Hence, we really enable this comprehensive visibility that enables us to understand whether there is any threat coming up and downstream from the supply chain. Moreover, we provide services in terms of supply chain audits, even re-architecturing to implement security by design, and also to add zero trust architecture for any third-party access control application. So with this in mind, we are focusing on really covering all the challenges that might come from the supply chain.
Thanks for that. Once you've deployed the SentryOT solution, how much of it is then self-managed and monitored by the customer versus your involvement in the process? Is this long-term SentryOT will always be involved in with the customer, or are we teaching the customer how to fish, so to speak, where they are using your software, using your product, then being able to be self-sufficient?
I would put it in the same equation as a firewall. You always need a firewall within your network. Once you see the added benefits of SentryOT when it comes to the visibility, it would be really useful to optimize your entire operational processes around it. From a management point of view, we have two options. One where we hand it over to the client and he runs it by himself, or we can provide managed services and be on the journey with him and just do key alerting. It's an industry where it depends a lot on I wouldn't say necessarily on the maturity from a cybersecurity point of view of the client, but more of the budget that the client has at hand. If they have a department trained and capable of managing this platform, it's going to be easy for him to do that. If he doesn't, it would be quite cost effective to outsource the managing of the platform than to find dedicated resource and then go through the entire challenges of retaining specialized IT cybersecurity personnel.
Right, right. And I know with a lot of your existing customers, your management platform and your ability to do that for them has become very, very important, kind of what they defer to. Even, quite honestly, even if they do have the team, they're relying on your expertise to manage it, which I think is definitely the better way to go. I know you have a lot of customers today that this is in practice with, and I won't mention their names because many of them are government or local or major corporations. But if you can give us an example of where you see this most effective for one of your clients today, that'd be great for the audience to hear. Just a practical example.
That's an excellent question. We have actually focused on demonstrating our platform with real-world examples that we are facing, still keeping the privacy of our customers' data and architectures. So I'll walk you through one of these scenario, which is based on real examples, and actually encourage everyone to approach us for an actual demonstration showing the unique capabilities of SentryOT. So an external device connects physically within the isolated OT environment. This is definitely a very high security threat, which should not happen. And here we detect the physical location and the port it connects to in order to correlate it with the customer's physical security systems and identify the person. But furthermore, the network is being scanned to detect its topology and identify whether there are any open communication ports. Finally, as a result of this scan, uh, somebody manages to connect to an OT device, downloads its configuration file, performs some changes on the configuration file, and uploads it back, causing some unexpected operational behavior. So our platform here really enabled observing all the above behavior, creating alerts, and even as a part of SentryOT is a raw traffic recorder, we can observe the content of the downloaded and then later uploaded file, and even identify the changes, looking further into how those changes eventually create an unusual behavior in the operational impact. And we isolate the area in the operational part that has been impacted. And we also provide the ability to recover the OT asset to its original state. And this is just a small part, actually, of what we have found for some of our customers. And we have made it as a demonstration, which is based on real data with actual operational assets. And anytime we are more than happy to perform these demonstrations for our ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, firsthand knowledge of the demo and customers we've put it in front of, and you guys have participated in, they're blown away by this. And it's such a unique solution and so specific to the success of the security that so many, after they see the demo, they approach this with where to sign. So that's goodness around that. And I will also mention at this time that SentryOT is seeking investment opportunities as well. So if you're interested, after you hear about this great product and see a demo, if you're interested in investing in this, please feel free to reach out to GeoLark. The one thing I'll say is the hard part of the interview for me is over, because the cloud for me of OT, security, and environment has been weighing over me as I've thought about doing this interview. So I'm going to switch to something that I can talk to, which is vacations and sports and fun. So I know, Mircea, you are like right after this interview going on vacation. Tell us where you're going so we make everyone jealous.
So I'm going to go to Tenerife for 12 days. And maybe to bring back the jealousy, I'm going with my 4 months child, which is going to be extremely fun.
Yeah, I have 5 kids, so I don't know if I classify vacations fun, but we'll take it. What do you have going on, Alex? Anything fun and exciting in your near future?
I don't have any specific plans until the end of the year, to be honest. The vacation is over for me, and as mentioned, we're looking for investment, so that is another full-time job on top of 3 other full-time jobs.
Yeah, I was going to say for sure, there's no rest for that aspect of things. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me on the GeoLark podcast. I really appreciate it. And if we can help you with any other information, feel free to reach out to GeoLark Partners. We're happy to help you with that. Guys, have a great vacation and a great time off, and let's get some money into this organization. We appreciate you so much for joining me. Thanks.